Wait, my laptop isn't charging for some reason. Why is that? One sec, buddy.
God damn it, Dan.
No, well, yeah. Oh, now it's charging. Cool. Don't know what happened. It's working now, though.
You let us down.
I've let everyone down, Chris. I think,
Yeah, man.
humanity, my parents,
Roll the music.
my cat.
Roll it. Just get out of this funk. Roll the music.
The listeners.
Roll it. Just roll it.
Okay, roll the music. Oh, also the music. I've let the music down.
You have at this point.
Okay.
Because you won't roll it.
Okay, I'll roll the music. Hello and welcome to Stephen University. This week we are going to be talking about the 11th and 12th episode. No, we're just talking about the 11th episode. We're doing oh god, my brain is everywhere. The 11th episode of Stephen Universe Future in Dreams. Do you want to do a recap, Chris?
Yeah, man. I mean, you can. I won't, but...
Great. I'll do, I guess.
I'm just so bad at them. All right. I'll give it a whirl. Stephen's having a dream. He goes up. There's a party happening. He says, "Now I've saved the universe, I can party." But he can't. He can't get into the party. So he panics and he wakes in a hot flush. Then Peridot appears the next day to watch Camp Pining Hearts. It's been rebooted. They're very excited, but they watch it. It's not great. They don't enjoy it. Whilst watching it, Stephen starts to see some of his dreams on the TV, and they realise that part of his powers is now he can connect and project his dreams to the telly. So they decide to write a reboot themselves, and then have Stephen dream about it, control the dream, and then they get to watch the episode as they wish. They start to experiment with that, but Stephen keeps getting angry and going pink and keeps disrupting it. He sees Connie in the visions. He gets all panicked and he can't do it. He suggests stopping. Peridot's like, "Okay, I'll go back to little homeschool." And Stephen's like, "No, we can give it a try. So they try again. It goes wrong again, and Stephen admits that he just wants to hang out. Now he's trying to fix things in his dreams. He's always fixing things, is Stephen, and he's done with it. So he emotionally declares this to Peridot, who hears and feels bad that she put him in this position, and says, "No, it doesn't matter. We can just hang out. You don't have to fix things. I'm such a clod. I'm sorry." They have a really nice moment, and then they sit down to watch Camp Pining Hearts. And instead of being annoyed at the fact that it's not as good as the original, they make fun and laugh at this. And the humour and the fun then becomes them laughing at the show and how bad it is, as opposed to not enjoying it for that very reason. And then, as friends, relaxed with nothing to fix, they enjoy the show together.
It's lovely. Great. That was a good one.
Yeah.
Good
Great
recap,
recap.
Chris. Great recap.
Yeah,
and
you.
as your reward,
Thank you very
I'm going to set you up for this one. The reason we do the recap, for anyone wondering, is because some people are listening in the future.
Here we are in the future.
There you go. Chris just needs a reason to do that.
So since I did recap, headline thoughts, Daniel Frederick Doolan. Go.
One of my favourites of the run so far, to be honest with you. It was, it's funny because as many times as we said, "Oh, some of these episodes are a bit frenetic," but don't worry, the pacing's fine. The pacing is fine. This definitely felt like it was paced better than a lot of the other episodes that we've had this series. It just seemed to me that the concept was simple enough and low-key enough to fit very comfortably in 10 minutes, rather than they've had to do a little bit of jiggling to squeeze it in. Do you know what I mean? This walked through the door that's 10 minutes shaped size very comfortably, whereas the previous episodes of Stephen Universe Future have had to sort of stand to the side a bit, suck in, to fit through that.
I think there's some elements of this. There's some elements of the next episode as well that do that, I think.
Yeah, So and for me, just the simplicity of it alone, we got this really sweet idea about how these two friends can sort of maintain their connection even in the future. It's just wonderful.
Here we are in the future.
I love this episode. I loved everything about it. It's funny. It's Peridot, which we've done nothing but insist we wanted since the last batch aired, and even during that last batch there was a lot of "Where's Peridot?" It's a great use of her character, a wonderful moment, and how wrong we were to keep talking about, "Oh, physically, where is Peridot at?" what's her job? What's she doing with her life? No. Let's not worry about that. We were idiots, Chris. That's not the thing to think about. It's the thing to think about is where's she at with Steven? How's their friendship like evolved? Lovely, like absolutely wonderful, like perfectly pitched, extraordinarily well paced, funny, dramatic, heartfelt, everything you need. Love it.
Yeah, because I agree with you. I really enjoyed it. My question, and I was very much not feeling this way, but my question was going to be, because, when we talked about a Peridot episode, as you just said, we talked about wanting a Peridot episode.
Yes.
This is a Steven episode with Peridot. But, watching this, I was kind of like, well, because I had that thought, I was like, oh, do I wish we were exploring Peridot? And then I was kind of like, it's not. What's there left to explore? Do you know if the show was endless, and we're going to say let's do it now. Now that we know this show is ending, we're going to say that a lot. I think we're going to have a lot of discussions based around with only 10 episodes left. Should they have done this? There's a big one for that, I think, in the next episode. Not to keep teasing the next episode. But with this, I'm thinking 10 episodes left. Should they have explored Peridot? And then I'm like, as you just said, well, actually, what is there? What is there to explore? There's kind of all the. I think there's still room to. We kind of should have actually, as you say, just be wanting to see Peridot. I think there's still Lapis stuff to explore. I think there's still Bismuth stuff to explore. Actually, Peridot.
There certainly is now.
Well, yeah, exactly. Again, that is, as you correctly surmised, what I was referring to.
Yeah.
You want to introduce a ship with 9 episodes left? Okay, we'll talk about it.
Come back next week for that conversation.
Yeah. But with Peridot, she's confident. She's got her powers. She knows her stance. She's a crystal gem. She's got her star. You're probably to do a Peridot exploration. Especially like arguably the only kind of not the only, but in a world where you've only got 9 episodes left, because if you had 4 seasons, you could either introduce a new story and resolve that, which they don't have time to do here, or you could with Peridot, I think, because her role was so about strategy, war, gem shit, you could have done a little bit with Peridot, what happens to the soldier after the war. But I don't know if anyone's noticed this. I don't know if you've noticed this, Dan, because it's subtle. But they're kind of doing that storyline with Steven anyway. So, and I don't think you need it. It would be played in too different a way with Peridot to run parallels. So actually, I think doing a Peridot and Steven story, as you say, doing a story, it's a far more interesting angle, as we've always praised this show. The story or the scene that makes you go, oh, fuck it, of course they're taking that angle. It was obvious. Can't believe I didn't notice it, but now that I've seen it, it is both surprising but obvious. And the notion of we always fix things together. We always have a solution to find together. What's our friendship now we don't have that is a fantastic exploration and idea, and obvious but surprising. So, 10 Billingham points.
Wow. For those keeping track of the scores, it's every single other episode 0, In Dreams 10. So In Dreams is really ahead on Billingham points.
Yeah, and the thing is, if you get 110 Billingham points, then you get another 2 seasons. But unfortunately, you can only give a max of 10 out an episode, so they're never going to make it, which is a shame.
Yeah,
and I apologise.
They're going to come short. Even if all of them are 10, they're going to be 50 points short.
Yeah,
you should to really tease people. Then you should have made it 101 points.
Yeah. Well, no, I don't want it to feel true. Can I, before anyone, emails me, Cartoon Network renewing or not renewing this show or doing anything else with Steven Universe is not dependent on Billingham points. Very clear.
Well, I read on Deadline that they were looking at Billingham points as a way of judging whether a show is viable or not.
Yeah, but Deadline also presented that Friends interview as a reunion special, so...
Yeah, you're right. They
can't be trusted, Daniel.
No, yeah. I mean, I didn't believe it when I read it on Digital Spy, but I can't, I have a certain amount of respect for Deadline. Um, anyway, yeah, I agree. I think you're right. It's one of those things. I think I said it in my little summary, which is just like, to me, I felt like an idiot. Like, it just proves how much more in tune these writers are with what the show actually needs. It's like when someone gets you a gift that you never thought of getting even a bit, and you're like, this is actually a brilliant gift. Like, why did I not think of buying this for myself? Because, like, we kept talking about wanting more Peridot, and then we were stretching in the dark for reasons to want to have it, because there's a part of your brain that goes...
I think we always... When actually asking the question, what would we do with Peridot? We always went back to Lapis. We always made it more about Lapis's story than actually Peridot's.
Yeah, we made it about fusion, and I mean that's what I went for, isn't it? I mean, my main thing was about like Peridot finally overcoming that final hurdle and being comfortable enough to fuse, which is sort of the last step of her sort of arc about accepting not the Diamond's way, not the Era 2 way. But you know what? Like, as much as that would have been wonderful, just a nice little focused small story about her relationship with Steven and how that has had to evolve with the time is beautiful, and it's perfect, and I wouldn't change it for anything. Like, it's like when you get a meal. Have you ever done that where you go to a restaurant, you've ordered something, they're giving you the wrong thing, you haven't bothered. The thing they've put in front of you looks good, so you don't complain. Then you eat the meal they gave you, and you go, you know what, it's actually better than probably what I was going to order anyway. Like, it doesn't happen often, but it's definitely happened to me, and this was that for sure.
But also in a world where they spat out the other fusions in Change Your Mind like a broken vending machine, you could still get that Peridot fusion in the finale,
Yeah,
scene.
I don't want that though. I'll be honest with you. If they do it, I want them to do the emotional side of that story and give us the catharsis of seeing Peridot choose to do that. The idea because it'll reinforce how annoying some of these time skips have been. If she just fuses and it's just something she's been doing for ages and it happened in one of the time skips and we missed it, I'll feel a bit robbed of a storyline.
Well, as we did in Change Your Mind, which is fair. Well, then, would you have preferred that to this?
No, not once I actually watched this. This was just too perfect. And let's be realistic. 9 episodes left following this one. The chances of Peridot showing up in a major recurring role. And actually, I had the same thing as you. I wrote at the bottom of my notes, is this enough Peri to satisfy us if it's her last featured role? And it probably will be, right? Statistically speaking, there is only 9 episodes left. What are the odds she's getting another focused episode? Slim to none.
Yeah, I think this is her goodbye, yeah.
Yeah, so while I would have been very happy with that storyline, it's as to go back to my earlier very, very shaky metaphor, it's the thing I ordered. I was very happy with what I got and don't regret that that's the way it worked out. I think this is a really wonderful way to say goodbye to Peri by having a nice, focused story about her relationship with Steven. Wonderful. Like, again, just a brilliant sort of 10 minutes of television.
I want to go more specific with your analogy. So is it like if you ordered a chicken burger, picturing a breaded chicken burger with fries, and getting a grilled chicken burger with chunky chips?
Yes. And that's not what I ordered or wanted or was imagining. So there's that initial disappointment, but then you bite into the grilled chicken burger and you go, you know what, actually, this is hitting the spot. This is
I mean, it never fucking hits the spot compared, but yes, I see what you mean.
Well, then you've broken the analogy by choosing two things you prefer with the opposite way around.
No, I don't. No, that's fair. No, sometimes, to be fair, sometimes with the right level of cheese and bacon, that can hit the spot. And you go, it's the healthy option. Nom nom nom.
Wait, we don't go to restaurants enough if I've never heard you utter the phrase, that's the healthy option. Nom nom nom. Like,
but you know what I mean?
I now demand that you either I come to you or you come to me. We go to like a Pizza Hut or something, and you go to the salad bar and say really loudly in front of everyone, looking around at all the pizzas as you say it, and then glancing back down at your salad. Well, I'm having the healthy option. Nom nom nom.
I'm glad you made it realistic, because I was like, mate, the last time we met up, we had takeaway Pizza Hut, and the time before that, we had fried chicken wings. So when do we ever choose the healthy option? So I'm glad you put us choosing the healthy option.
Well, I like the idea.
Alongside.
I like the idea of it being in a not healthy restaurant, but you were going for the salad option, and then glancing around and sort of judging everyone else as you said it.
Yeah, that's fair.
Right. So, yeah,
you do in that grilled chicken burger scenario. Don't tell me you wouldn't in your head go, oh well, at least it's healthier.
Yeah, but it's not a lot healthier, is it? Like the difference.
No, that's what I'm saying.
If it's covered in cheese and bacon, it's not really.
Yeah. No, that's what I'm saying. We're idiots.
Yeah. But I really like this. I thought this was a wonderful send off.
The healthy option,
to the character. This is
it was good. Do you like this more?
It's worth noting, sorry to interrupt, but it's worth noting if I'd gone to McDonald's and got their wraps and they'd given me the fucking grilled chicken one instead of the crispy chicken one, I'd be kicking off. There'd be no accepting my fate and taking it as it is. At McDonald's, the difference is like night and day, not happening.
Yeah, and you're already having, in quote marks, the healthy option by having a fucking wrap in the first place. So, do you, again, not to discuss the next episode, but do you think as well, though, one of the reasons you liked this is because the next episode was less Stevens in a bad way? So, again, not saying this is my opinion, do you think there's a danger of too many Stevens, the soldier who can't get over the war episodes?
No, because the way they're doing it,
it's got a different angle every time.
Yeah, it's never been from... Yeah, exactly. So there was an episode about his friends moving on without him. Then there's an episode about like him not being able to necessarily... Because the cactus episode was more about like him dealing with his own sort of emotional state and holding it in and not talking to people properly and like all that stuff. And then this episode was looking at how he makes his relationships that the people have stayed function in a world where, one, he's afraid they're going to leave, but two, he doesn't even know how to... Their relationships were based on this previous life goal that no longer exists. I suppose it's the equivalent, Krista, when we were sort of not growing up, but like when we were going from uni to like sort of adulthood, like that gap there when we sort of grew up together in that part of our lives. If one of us had dropped screenwriting or this podcast or something, how would we have maintained a relationship without the thing that we bond over, TV and screenwriting and the podcast?
It's funny, I was just about to say what I fucking love about this show so much and what I really, really appreciate. And I feel guilty because last time we met up, we discussed TV shows that made an impact on us, and I forgot to name Steven Universe, but it absolutely should be on that list. Is how relatable this show is, because that's a great example, and I thought of like two others, like when you work with someone and you're really tight and you have an amazing friendship and like you think of them as one of your best friends, and then you stop working together and you meet up and you bitch about work, and then you meet up again and you bitch about work, and eventually it reaches a point where neither of you have worked there for so long that you can no longer bitch about work and you have nothing to say, so you stop meeting up. Like you stop. Do you know what I mean? The friendship just fizzles out.
Yeah, because the friendship was so based on this one common interest or common point. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Or when you have you have someone and it's a bit like, is it going to be romantic? Is it not? Oh, we're just friends, and then it's not romantic, and then suddenly with all the extra stuff you give when it's romantic gone, it's nothing. It's so relatable, this show. Mm-hmm. And can I tell, because I'm not sure how much more we have to say on this episode specifically, can I give another example of just Steven Universe's wonderful impact, I think, and a sentence I actually said out loud. So I was talking to someone about Love is Blind. Slight spoilers for Love is Blind. I assume you've now seen all of it, Dan?
I have not. No, I am 5 episodes in.
Okay, so have you had someone revealing something about their sexuality?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. So I won't name names, but spoilers. There is a character who gets. So the premise of Love is Blind, without going too into it, is you talk only via an app. You decide to get married, and then you meet in person. And this one person hid the fact that they have previously had relationships with both genders, and they then reveal it to the person they're with, and that person gets quite upset about it. And I was talking to someone about this, and they were saying that they completely got it and understood why it would be an issue. And I was saying, I understand that them keeping it secret and them hiding it from them is an issue.
Yes.
That I completely understand.
That's where I stood on it as well.
But otherwise, I don't see why it should affect anything at all.
No, it wouldn't have done, but it does. But it says something about the person in question that they kept it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that person's going, well, you know, in a scenario with my partner, if they'd kept that from me, I think it would make a difference. And I was like, why? And they were like, because I would then think, am I enough for them? And I was like, but why would you not think that if it was just one gender? And they were like, because in the past they'd got pleasure from something that I wouldn't be able to offer them. And I was like, but you could argue that if a former partner had a common interest that you don't have with that partner, like it's the same. Yeah, it's a similar thing.
For me though, it was more about, like, for me, for looking at that example from Love Is Blind. Not that this podcast needs to become a Love Is Blind review podcast, but just to clarify, from my perspective, I think that argument that you're using is silly. It doesn't make any sense. But for me, I was very much on the side of the person who's angry, because at this point the couple had very much become a couple.
Oh, they didn't completely say.
And there's a certain amount of trust that you need to have shown.
Completely.
And there's an element of, well, okay, I don't think that's a big deal, but it is a huge part of your life that you've kept hidden from me. What else do I not know about you? And if you're not willing to talk and open up to me before we commit to a relationship, then that's problematic for a whole heap of unrelated reasons, you know.
Completely agree. And to I thought I'd made that clear, but if I didn't, to absolutely clarify, that argument and their argument in the show, completely on board with. The argument I'm talking about for this example is the person saying that it would, regardless of if they told them straight away, it would still be an issue for them. And for me it just wasn't. And we went we were going back and forth, and eventually I literally out loud to them went, see, this is the difference between someone who's watched Steven Universe and someone who hasn't. And they were like, and that was just words to them. They were like, what, Steven Universe? I was like, don't worry. But I really felt that. I didn't. Yeah. I completely agree with all the trust arguments. I don't know if I agree with it personally. I can see the other argument about something you can't give. But the notion of it being their sexuality being an issue regardless of when they told them, and making a difference different to they just had partners of the same sex before, I just couldn't get on board with. And I think that is in part, I'd love to sit here and say that I'd have felt that way anyway, but I think in part that is to do with Steven Universe. I really feel that way.
Do you feel like Steven Universe has kind of made you, to a certain degree, like more understanding and more tolerant, like, than you might have been naturally?
I think so, and that's hard to say, because I would hate to think of myself as someone who ever wasn't tolerant or anything.
Yeah, I think there's a difference. I think actually, maybe tolerance is the wrong word. I think maybe less ignorant. Like it's more about like
less ignorant,
because because for me, like I always try to draw a line, and I think this line needs to be drawn when you're talking about all sorts of bigotry, so racism, homophobia. Like there's the sort of the kind that stems from somebody just not understanding because they just simply haven't had the experience, they don't get it. You know, that's like ignorance based. Whereas then there's the hate-based side, which is true bigotry, in my opinion. And I do sometimes think, as a society, we do need to learn to like differentiate the two, because somebody saying, you know, I feel like I empathize more with people now who have a sexuality that isn't straight, because this show has sort of shown me the struggle, has enlightened me to struggles that in my liberal bubble I didn't realize were still happening in the world, right?
Yes.
So, but that's you filling in a gap and sort of taking yourself out of a place of ignorance. That's not you becoming less bigoted. You would have always come to the right conclusion. Because you could show, whereas if you showed this show to a true, like a bigot, they're not going to change their mind. If anything, it's going to outrage them more. So it's worth. I want to draw that distinction so that like people listening don't think that what we're saying is that Chris used to be a raging homophobe and now this show has somehow like shifted.
No,
that.
well here's a good example. There I hear people happened earlier on today. We were talking about a boy band, and I talked about how I used to have that boy band's poster on my wall as a kid, and someone in the room at the time went, "Ooh," and that I would never. This show has not made me freely admit that I had that boy band's poster on my wall. I would have always said that element wouldn't have changed.
No.
But when they made that noise, I got angry. Yeah. When I hear things like someone, I was with some people the other week, and someone was on Tinder swiping, and someone went, "Oh yeah, it's actually Grindr," and everyone laughed, and I didn't, and it made my blood boil because I was like, "I'm sorry, can we break this down here? What's the joke?
Yeah, is the butt of the joke that haha he's gay? Like is that
exactly
that the joke?
And that
exactly
because that's all the butt of the joke can possibly be, and that's not a fucking joke. Like that's not you're not saying anything funny. You're not doing anything
you're
clever.
More sort of,
you're
literally
literally going
sensitive to that sort of stuff now from watching the show. Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's what the show. It's not changed my attitudes. It's made me. This show has made me more aware. And more analytical. To other people's attitudes and what is deemed appropriate and what isn't. Yeah,
no, 100% agree. And I would be lying if I said that I hadn't had a similar, like, I don't know to what extent. I've not really analysed it that way, but I certainly find myself a little more attuned to it now, because this show has quite simply made me aware that this is still such a huge problem. I was living in a world of, it's that ignorance is bliss thing, isn't it? It's like I was living in a world where, like, we've mostly figured it out. Like, that's ignorance. That's just totally ignorance, because, again, in my own liberal sort of bubble with my friends, homophobia doesn't exist. Because the people I choose to spend time with wouldn't make those sort of comments. And then, because I live in that world, I'm not looking out for anywhere else. So I'm going to work and maybe someone does make a comment like the one you just used as an example, and I wouldn't have maybe picked up on it. Whereas now I'm like more aware of it for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Bringing it back to the this particular episode, though, I mean, there's so much to love. First of all, I thought the dreams were really creative visually. I particularly loved the use of the SMPTE color bars, which is for those in the UK that kind of recognize it but don't really know what it is. It's a test pattern that's mostly been used in America. When broadcasts go off the air, that's kind of the color palette that's used. There's a different one used in Europe and the UK, I think, which is why if it looks a little off to you, that is exactly why. I think it's something to do with the difference between PAL and NTSC, I think. But But I love the use of those bars in this episode, particularly the moment where Peridot turns around and like it's in her visor. That is like just such a really creepy visual. And actually, I like some of the silly fun visuals in this as well. Like, I really liked the Dogcopter was in the next boat and then flew off. And then it was the 3 crystal gems and they flew off in a Dogcopter way. Like, that bit, like, what a fun moment. I also just love the idea that everyone is leaving him. Even in his dreams, he's envisioning everyone just flying away. I thought that was really neat. I really loved...
I think what was so effective about it is we'd done a lot of trippy visuals on this show, but they still felt fresh. I guess because we've never... Because they had just even a bit more freedom because it was a dream.
Ooh. Yeah, without question. They had... I mean, and it's funny is that it's so good. Even when it's not supposed to look like a dream, when it's supposed to look like Camp Pining Hearts, it still looks off. And you know how I know that? Is that when we reviewed the trailer on the last episode, I said, yeah, there's this weird shot of Steven in a boat and it looks all wrong. Like, I literally said, it looks off and I can't put my finger on why. And it's because it was part of this dream and I didn't know that at the time. I love that the line Peridot utters before the dream is she's talking about the Camp Pining Hearts episode and it switches to the dream just after she says, look at this nightmare. So she says, "Look at this nightmare," and then it actually switches to Stephen's nightmare, which I thought was really neat.
Yeah, that was
very effective. I also loved the little references to Camp Pining Hearts. I loved that they described one of the characters as having a poutine allergy. That still makes me laugh. That's good.
The whole jokes around the reboot thing it was so funny because I just couldn't work out like whether it was meant to be meta, because this isn't really a reboot, but it is a sequel. The characters have changed and grown. It wasn't Jay and Silent Bob rebooted, but yeah, it was. I thought that was or reboot. Sorry, I thought that was funny. Like any reference to reboots made me laugh.
Yeah, I assume, because this was written way before any of it aired, that it couldn't have been based on any real feedback they saw, but I do love that they were sort of, it seems like, anticipating some people maybe being a bit upset with character changes, for sure, which is really fun. I liked that they used Cookie Cat in the dream as the head of we should call this segment There I Noticed It. Because I've realised I do this. When I've gone back and listened to old episodes of Steven Universe, like to try and find quotes or to remind myself of what we thought of a certain episode. There's usually a bit towards the end where we finish sort of discussing our overall feelings, and I just list stuff that I liked. And I've realised the reason I do that is because if I don't, I do get tweets that say things like, "How come you didn't mention that Cookie Cat was in the thing?" I'm like, because I saw it. It was right there. I didn't feel the need to confirm I saw it because I saw it and it was good. But that's.
I always like this segment because you call it There I Noticed It, and I call it Cool, I don't need to think for a bit.
I liked the diamonds being used. Thought that was cool. Did you? I think, which one was your favorite? I think the dolphin blue diamond visual was too trippy. Like I mean, yellow as a pineapple is pretty weird, and just the giant foot of white is pretty weird. But nothing quite beats the oddity that was. And I've seen that still a few times now. Blue diamond as a dolphin.
Yeah, I liked that as well because that was sort of in keeping with it. Like the pineapple was almost like too trippy, whereas because the dolphin, they're in a boat, it felt more subtle.
Right, yeah, maybe that is it. Maybe it's because it felt in the context of it. The last thing I wanted to I said last thing. The last thing on the there I said it. There I noticed it. Whatever I called it when I said it a minute ago. Before we get to the triv, there is some triv, Chris. We'll come back to that. I really loved that end speech between Stephen and Peridot, and the visuals again matched it so perfectly. So I believe you hear like the of the TV switching to the color palette, and it's Stephen edging along the color palette, reaching out to a sort of a blank Peridot, and he says, we've always had something to fix together, the cluster, the diamonds, or Spinel. I don't think I know how to be friends without something to fix, but I just can't do it anymore. I'm so tired, and now I'm even doing it in my dreams. I'm sorry I can't do this for you. Please don't leave. Holy shit. This kid is so messed up. This is ridiculous. This poor child, like, it's really hard to watch these sometimes, because even though, and we need to talk, I suppose we need to talk about this idea as well of like, did we feel we took a step back this week in terms of like considering how far gone he was in the episode with the cactus Stephen, prickly pear? Like, does this feel like we've gone back to a slightly more with it Stephen? That felt like he was at a breaking point, and yet here in these two episodes he mostly seems all right.
Yeah, I hadn't thought of it in that context. So yeah, I think I would understand that argument if someone said that.
Yeah,
most definitely.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure it was a big issue for me either. But like, it did occur to me as we were going.
I struggle with it a bit because I think on some level, if I was to kind of say why I struggled with it, it would be, and I don't want to repeat that conversation, but it would be everything we talked about last time of if you ramp up, at this point, what reasonable, believable solution is there? Apart, and if it's, if it's an equivalent for counselling, for talking. But as you said, for some people, that would be people who would go, but talking's been the answer before, So I think that's my thing with it, and that's why really enjoyed the next episode because of kind of what I said earlier. It's it's the Prisoner of Azkaban. It's the one that's not really dealing with Voldemort.
Yeah, and it does feel like the piling on different every episode, because as much as we keep going, wow, they keep finding different angles on Stephen's trauma, but there's the downside of that is, wow, they're really piling on different things for him to be traumatized and struggling with, and at a certain point, like, you'll be able to resolve some of those, but you won't be able to justifiably resolve all of them.
Yeah, and it's amazing television. And I love that they're exploring it. It gets explored a little bit in the last Animorphs book with Jake, but it's the last book. They don't usually have time to deal with that. But take a shot here when there's only 10 episodes left. I wouldn't be feeling that way if we had 22 episodes left, but we don't, and that makes it, the more you do of this, the more it's like, geez, what's the solution here?
And I guess the counter argument that will be in the comments, no doubt, is that they do actually kind of resolve the conflict in this one. So I suppose you add it to the scale of things that are about to tip him over the edge, and then sort of take it off by the end. Because
and that and the next episode where he actually is prompted to talk to Connie, that I don't mind. I don't personally, as much as I understand the talking's been the answered before argument. I don't mind if that's the resolution. I think it's true to the show. I think it's realistic, and I think that fuck it, done before or not, to get that message across to children. Fucking do anything you need.
Yeah.
So I'm fine with that personally, but yeah, this resolution. He opened up about his feelings. They talked about it. She clarified her position. He clarified his. Okay, the next one.
Yeah.
He was encouraged to actually speak to Connie. He did. She revealed how she clarified her position. He clarified his. We move on together. Both of these episodes end with, well, you can help by being my friend. If that's the end resolution, fine. It's it's like you said, they're piling it on a lot.
Yeah.
And do I want them to pile it on and get to that resolution instead of Lapis, Jasper? Probably now Bismuth and Pearl. Probably not.
The other thing as well, I guess, is like, I will say that what I preferred about this episode to some of the stuff they did in the 2 episodes prior to this was, I think Stephen was a lot more understanding of because Stephen's always been very empathetic, right? He's always understood why people are upset. Like he's always understood where people are coming from. So which is always why it's so weird when he doesn't even himself seem to understand where his emotions are coming from and what's wrong with, you know what I mean? Like, it almost feels counterintuitive because Stephen's always been so attuned to everyone else's feelings, and yet he can't seem to tune into his own. And what I liked about this episode was we did get a little bit of that, because when he finally talks to Peridot, I go back to that quote. He understands exactly what's gone wrong. I don't know how to be friends without something to fix, but I can't do it anymore because I'm so tired. And because here I am, even doing it in my goddamn dreams. Like, this is like that is Stephen understanding what's actually happening, and I loved that because I guess I don't think I realized it slightly irked me in the previous 2 episodes, but Stephen was either denying or unaware of the causes for his emotional distress in the previous 2 episodes. So in the one where he was upset about his friends leaving him, it took Shep to bring that up, because Stephen didn't know. And that almost feels out of character. And I get it. He's obviously in like a dark place right now, and like gathering his thoughts like that is tricky. But yeah, I think the reason this episode sat better with me was because it gave the conflict of the episode its own resolution, whereas Prickly Pear left it quite open, particularly. Like, he didn't really resolve any of the emotional issues he was experiencing in Prickly Pear, did he? Whereas this felt like it actually had an ending, and that is which is something, that's for sure.
So what trivia have we got?
So just wrap up. I think one of my favorites of Steven Universe Future so far, for me.
Oh yeah, completely agree. And and also I think what helps is Peridot and that resolution being so heartwarming. Like, completely agree with everything you said, but also it gets points for that. Do you know what I mean?
Well, it got 10 points. It got 10 whole points. Billing points, whatever you call
exactly.
them. So, trivia. Now, I've got to do some thanks.
Billing ham points. You know my surname. You know.
Well, I thought maybe you tried to jazz it up with, by adjusting it.
No, do you remember when at uni you went through a brief phase of giving points, and like if people got so many, they got a chocolate bar?
Yeah, I did at uni when I for in our first year that we were together, I gave out Dan points because I used to just when I really liked something as a joke, I started saying, 10 points, that's funny, I like that, or whatever, like 10 points. And it became such a thing that eventually someone said, what do I get? And I had like chocolate on me, and I was like, how many have you got? They're like, I don't know. I was like, you've got roughly 100, you get a Mars bar. And then that was the thing, and it became an actual thing that I genuinely had to carry Mars bars around with me. It was weird.
Weird's the right word. I was thinking like creepy, like...
It was all played as a joke though, very much like the Statics. It was tongue in cheek the entire time. But we owe some thanks.
At least two of us are in on the Statics.
Yeah. So we owe some thanks to Paint Spot in Fez. Yeah, there you go. As in a Fez. Who has taken some time to go through the trivia, either culling or adding on our behalf, so we'd actually have trivia to do on the podcast this time. So. Very nice.
That's awesome. Thank you very much.
They mentioned on the Discord. They said we're working hard in adding trivia for the moment the wiki from the moment the episode's ended, specifically so there's something for you to say in trivia section of the podcast. So
that's awesome.
Paint Spot in Fez. We appreciate your work. Cool. So now I've said that, let's actually do it. Peridot and Stephen were the only real characters to appear in the episode. Everyone else was either a TV character or a dream. I do love a nice two-person character. Two-person character episode. I also loved Stephen's Stefan personality. Just adorable. Like, I loved the subtlety of when he was describing the character. It wasn't even that subtle. It was blatantly on the nose, but it felt subtle because it was like within the joke, where he says like he's a handsome, like mountaineer or something like that, whose friends never leave him or something like that. It was like slipped in there. It was very good.
It's very sweet.
We discovered in this episode that Peridot's visor is removable, and her eyes are actually dark green. I thought that was really a sweet moment and like quite a surprise. I genuinely was like, huh? Like, she can take off her visor? Like, I'd always just assumed it was part of her... God, sorry, I'm just flicking through the episode, and I just like skimmed through the shot when he's crawling along the edge of the color palette thing, the test pattern, and it just looks incredible. Sorry.
So good. Well, we've seen her without a visor before, haven't we?
No. First time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I thought we had. Wow,
no.
Crazy.
It's just that her old visor used to sort of be like within the shape of it. It didn't go off her face, did it? So it felt like it was part of her face, so you never really questioned it. But she actually took it off, which again we've literally never seen before, which is pretty cool. Pretty cool. So despite this being a dream, this is the first time we're seeing Connie since the time skip, and Sean, with her hair down and without the hair clips. I've already mentioned about the SMPTE color bars, so we don't need to cover the thing on that. On Steven's TV shelf, there's a PlayStation 2 with a controller. It's pretty neat. It's a wireless DualShock 2 controller, and some games can be seen as well, although you can't tell what they are. I had a look. That's how I know.
Cool.
It's cool that I love as the show has gone on, what console he has evolved. Like, he had a GameCube for a while at one point. Like, like you've seen him with different consoles as the show has evolved, which is neat. This is one of my favorite ones. Actually, no, I've mixed them up here. So no, okay, this one I do like this one, but this one's a bit more of a sort of like I think most people would know this one, but it comes under cultural references. Stephen tells Peridot about wearing a tinfoil hat. Which is obviously an allusion to the real life tinfoil hat myth, in which it involves a homemade aluminum foil tinfoil headgear that protects your brain from various external forces from penetrating your thoughts. Where am I? I've gotten really lost in my document. Peridot's love and obsession over campaigning hearts began after Stephen introduced her to it back in log date 715.2. Stephen refers to campaigning hearts as a classic Great Northern teen drama, and I like this one. So, the Great North is a snowy location they visited before, particularly in the episode Gem Hunt. It's implied that the Great North is the name for this universe's alternate version of Canada. in real...
Some people refer to Canada as the Great North. Anyway, don't
Well, exactly. So in real life, the Canada has the nickname the Great White North. So in this show's sort of alternate history, it's just become the Great North. Pennsylvania is also is in this world called Keystone. New Jersey is just Jersey, and New York is Empire State. So there you go. Oh yeah, and Delaware, Maryland, and Virginia are all clumped together to be Delmarva. The Campaigning Hearts video that we see in it features a version of the Canadian flag, green instead of red, and the show obviously references, Poutine and has actors with the sort of French-sounding names, implying the show is from, like I said, the in-universe version of Canada, and it's kind of a parody, it seems, of Degrassi. So series like Total Drama and Degrassi seem to be the inspirations of Campaigning Hearts. Also, those two shows are also from Canada. It is actually one of 4 different times Dogcopter has appeared in Steven's dreams. I didn't realise Dogcopter was such a regular occurring character in the dream versions of the world, but yeah, in Lion 3 Straight to Video, Chill Tea, and Kiki's Pizza Delivery Service, Dogcopter all showed up in dreams. This is the 4th occasion that's happened. Very strange.
Do you have any reoccurring dreams?
I did when I was a kid. I had a really weird one that I used to get every year around Christmas. It was a horrible, recursive loop dream where basically there'd be something I'd want at one side of the room, and I know it was at Christmas every year because there was always a Christmas tree in that side of the room, and I'd be going over to get the object, but then I'd hear footsteps, and that meant danger, and I was about to be caught, and I'd have to panically run back, and the entire dream was just that on loop for the night, and I'd never quite get to the object because I'd always have to return to the place that I started before I could get to whatever the object was. Had that a lot when I was a younger person. Horrible dream. Didn't appreciate it at all because even though probably in dream time, they say the average dream only takes 5-10 minutes. In the dream, it feels like hours of doing that. So it's not my favorite. Do you ever have any recurring dreams?
I occasionally dream that Robbie Williams and I are friends. And in the dream, I'm always like, "Oh yeah, we're friends." Like I've forgotten. And then I sort of remember that we hang out sometimes. And he's just a real good pal in the dreams. Yeah.
No, that's a great dream.
Yeah, no, just every so often.
There used to be a curry place near where I lived that was apparently one of his favourite curry places, and he visited regularly. If I'd have known Chris, I'd have taken you there a couple of times to see if we could make that dream a reality.
That would have been good. Nah, I think if you and I approach Robbie Williams, he's like, "Nah, fuck off, lads."
Yeah,
fair enough.
Right, you and I. If it'd been just you, you'd have been Bezzies.
No, Dan. Dream. No. I'm not saying the fucking dream.
I'm kidding. I'm
not saying the dream's realistic. I don't think, to clarify my position on this, I don't think either of us would be friends with Robbie Williams.
Anyway, for those who don't know, because he's not particularly big outside of the UK, Robbie Williams was in a boy band and has become a solo artist. And he's a pop singer in the UK, very famous. If you look at footage of him playing Nebworth, and you realise how popular that man is in this country. Anyway, in one of Steven's dream attempts, if you notice, this is a subtle detail I only picked up on when I saw it in the Triv. I didn't actually notice, and I went back and looked. One of the mountains in the background actually has tons of the kindergarten exit holes. Which is pretty neat. When Stephen wakes up within his dreams to see Paradox in front of the TV unresponsive, they're actually, you should know pretty much immediately that something is wrong, because they do that fake out, don't they, where he wakes up and you think that he's out of the dream, but then he's still in the dream. But actually it should be immediately obvious that it's not, because it's actually his old bedroom from the original show before the big refit and stuff. Detail. Yeah, it is. That was when I said earlier, this is one of my favourite ones. It was that one, but it was further down in the document than I thought. So yeah, that's a pretty cool one. We've already talked about Stefan, but apparently Stefan directly resembles the adult form of Stephen from So Many Birthdays, when he sort of, the one he wears that shirt that's a professional beach hunk because he's searching for an occupation and he keeps getting older and older. I'm going to take from your silence. You don't recall that, but...
No. Say it again.
It's the one where he keeps getting older and older, Stephen. It's so many birthdays.
I know the episode, yeah.
Yeah, so one of the old versions of him looks like Stefan from this.
Oh, cool. That's cool. That's a cool little nod.
Mm-hmm.
I told you, this segment for me is me not having to think that much. So I remember it. I'm just not thinking.
Gotcha. Well, this is the last one, and it's a good one. In Stephen's drawing, Stefan's right hand is crossed out. The reason for this is that Stephen said in Barnmates that he's bad at drawing hands.
That's amazing.
That is
Jesus,
an incredible piece of continuity because
Who remembered that and did that?
Precisely. Barnmates was episode 82.
Fuck.
And what are we now? Nearly at episode 200.
God.
That's good. That's a good detail. It's a great detail.
Well, episode 11 technically, but Jesus.
Yeah.
Sorry, had to be a real dickhead then.
Yep. Cool. So that's all the trivia. That's pretty cool. Yeah, some good stuff. Thank you
Great
again.
Triv.
Thank you
Clap
again
for the triv.
to Paint Spot in Fez. Paint Spot in Fez.
Very much appreciated.
Because it's all one word. I've always read it in one word when they've commented on our stuff. But now I realise it's Paint Spot in Fez. It's broken up. I think. There you go. Thank you. And yes, that's everything for this week. Anything to add, Chris, or are we taking it home?
No, great episode. Really enjoyed it. If this is Paradox's last hurrah, then I'm happy with that. Yeah.
There's more I'd like to see with the character, but I'm content enough that if we don't, I'm not going to be mad about it. Yeah, that's where I stand too. So next episode obviously is Bismuth Casual. Which we've already seen, but we're going to be reviewing next week. Worth noting for listeners, we're having to record these because of Chris's wedding. When Bismuth Casual comes out, the subsequent 2 episodes will have aired, but we will not have seen them because we're recording it ahead of time. So it's going to be a little bit frustrating for listeners, and I am sorry about this. That we're going to be
we might have seen them. We just weren't necessarily have Oh, I see what you mean. Yes, yeah.
Yeah. So when you guys listen to us discuss Bismuth Casual, you will have seen Together Forever and Growing Pains, but us in that recording for Bismuth Casual won't have. Does that make sense? And the same thing is going to be true when we're talking about Together Forever. People will have already seen Mr. Universe and Fragments, and when we're talking about Growing Pain, people will have already seen the finale. So there's going to be a lot of very frustrating us speculating about the finale when people have already seen it. Sorry. You just to bear with us on that one because it's that or we record through Chris's wedding week and that's just not happening. I've put my foot down on that one. I'm not. I've ruined enough of Chris's evenings over the years doing this podcast to ruin that. No way.
Which is very sweet.
Not a chance. I'm not letting that happen. So we'll do it that way. So again, apologies for the inconvenience, everyone. But come back next week and hear us chat about Bismuth Casual. So that's been everything for this week. I've been Dan Doolan.
I've been Chris Billingham.
And not to repeat myself, but I kind of have to because that's the flow of the podcast. Come back next week to hear us discuss Bismuth Casual. Shouldn't have said it at the beginning and then come back round, but hey.
It's alright, we've only got 9 more episodes to get it right.
Ooh.
8, because the finale you won't do it at the end of the finale, yeah.
Oh god. Oh, that's depressing. Thanks for that.
Bye!
Bye!